श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानामालयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। श्रीकृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। Dear friends, today is one of the most auspicious days, the Sri Krishnastami. Quite often people call it Janmashtami. The idea being that this was the day when Lord Sri Krishna was born. And therefore we celebrate, in effect, the birthday of Lord Sri Krishna. Now, what is this birthday? Suppose we ask Sri Krishna, suppose you just imagine, we somehow come across Lord Sri Krishna and ask him, hey Krishna, today is your birthday. He would not agree with you. He would say, I was never born. He would add that you are also not born. In fact, that is how the entire Gita teaching started. In the second verse of his teaching, that is second chapter, 12th verse, the teaching began with the 11th verse of the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And the very 12th verse says, Natvevaham jatunasam natvanneme janadhipaha nachaiva nabhavishyamas sarve vayamatah param. He says, neither I was born, nor you are born, nor any of these other people are born. And then he elaborates upon his teaching further, saying that Ajo Nityaha Shashvatoyam Puranaha. Therefore, if you identify with the body-mind, then we can talk of a thing called birth. But you cannot identify with body-mind in the context of Lord Sri Krishna's teaching. And therefore, this idea of birthday of Lord Sri Krishna is a contradiction if you carefully examine the vision of Sri Krishna as it is presented in the Bhagavad Gita. This has an element of anthropomorphism in it. We, the humans, celebrate the birthdays, and therefore we end up celebrating the birthdays of the gods and goddesses that we worship. That is how the anthropomorphism works. Therefore, we may still use the occasion calling it Sri Krishnastami. We used to call like that. I clearly remember we used to call it Sri Krishnastami. The Janmashtami, the word Janma, I heard it later, but applying the word Janma to Bhagavan Sri Krishna, I am a bit hesitant about it. Anyway, without being very technical about it, if we utilize this occasion, this day, to reflect upon what Bhagavan Sri Krishna has taught in Gita, then I feel that the name given, Sri Krishnastami, etc., and the occasion as it is celebrated in a particular way is still worthwhile, provided we reflect upon the teaching of Sri Krishna. That is one aspect of the Janmashtami. Then there is a second aspect, namely celebrating Janmashtami. Now, once again, we are students of Vedanta. We do not follow the religion of the masses or the popular religion. So, for the students of Vedanta, what is the meaning of celebration? This is also a pertinent question that we should examine on this occasion. If you carefully study Gita, one thing comes out very clearly, that Sri Krishna is not in favor of celebrations and ceremonies. In fact, he says more than once, he seems to be suggesting against the showiness or the ostentatiousness of the celebrations and ceremonies. He says, Yona Hrishyati. That is how he says. Harshamarsha bhayodvegair muktaha. So such expressions we come across quite a number of times in Gita. And the expression harsha, which may correspond to celebration, etc., is not viewed as a positive quality. It is indeed looked down by Sri Krishna. Also, assuming that we are students of Vedanta, the acharyas of Vedanta, those who teach Vedanta and those who learn Vedanta, for them, the primary goal is the focus must be on meditation, the quietude and silence, not on celebration. Therefore, the right thing to pursue on this auspicious day in the name of Lord Shri Krishna is not elaborate ceremony and celebration. For Vedantins I am saying. For the popular masses, they have their own way of celebrating. But we cannot be in that category, I suppose. And in fact, we have to advise the masses also in the proper direction. Sometimes I wonder, a wrong message must have gone very deep into the society. And that is the reason why there are elaborate ceremonies and celebrations all in the name of God. And therefore, I do not look at this occasion as a context of celebration. I look at it as an occasion for reflection, meditation, inner quietude, etc. Such a nivritti, that must be the way, if you call it celebrate, that must be the way the students and the acharyas of Vedanta should celebrate. And then, when we say Shri Krishna, so the Shri Krishna, as conveyed by the vision of Gita, is a seer, a rishi, and a teacher, an acharya of Advaita Vedanta. In India, Shri Krishna is a very popular figure. Not only in India, all over the world, Shri Krishna is a popular figure. But this popular figure of Shri Krishna is unfortunately not the same as the universal teacher of Bhagavad Gita. Here, it is necessary to make a distinction between Gita Krishna vis-a-vis Radha Krishna. I have a feeling that Hindu society should examine its moorings. The Hindu society should, the acharyas, the religious leaders of the Hindu society, who guide the masses, the Hindus at large, should themselves examine their understanding of religion, etc. And for that purpose, they are well guided by studying Swami Vivekananda and Swami Ramatirtha in particular. In a given context, Swami Vivekananda has opined as, I am quoting, there is not the least necessity for teaching the divine love of Radha and Krishna. Teach them pure devotion to Rama or Hara, Sita Rama or Parvati Parameshwara. See that no mistake is made in this respect. Remember that the episodes of the divine relationship between Radha and Krishna are quite unsuitable for young minds. So he was not mincing the words. And he further says the allegory of Radha is misunderstood. That is what exactly he said. And misunderstood by him, whom? He is talking about the various acharyas over the centuries. They all misunderstood the allegory of Radha. So, and he tries to make a distinction between Radha Krishna versus Gita Krishna by corresponding that distinction to a very similar distinction between Kama, the lust, and Prema, the love. They are two different things. Kama, the lust, is blind and leads to hell. Prema is love and it leads to heaven. There is no idea of lust in the love of Krishna. That is how he maintains. He further says, some of the Vaishnava gurus, so I got this idea from Swami Vivekananda that a wrong message is gone into the society and the gurus, the leaders, the religious leaders over millennia, they are responsible for this deep-seated wrong message that has gone into the society. A very similar opinion is expressed by Swami Vivekananda in these words. The subsequent gurus, instead of laying particular stress on the aspect of renunciation in Lord Shri Krishna's life, they bestowed all their zeal on preaching and infusing the idea of love, the ideal of love among masses. So love which moves towards lust, that kind of love. And the consequence was that the common people could not grasp and assimilate that high ideal of divine love and naturally made of it the worst form of love between man and woman. Therefore, so Swamiji was pointing out the love itself has two aspects to it. The undesirable aspect of it and the divine aspect of it. And when the gurus have taught Shri Krishna, they have presented Shri Krishna in that form of love, instead of highlighting the divine aspect of that love, which consists of renunciation and which is no different from Atma-jnanam. That is how it is, such a lofty thing it is. Instead of taking the human mind in the direction of that philosophical vision, the vision of the spirit, so these acharyas allowed that aspect of love to degenerate to a relationship between man and woman. That is how it happened. So a very unfortunate development, and we should examine this aspect called love today on the occasion of Shri Krishnastami. Because when the love, as it has to be correctly understood, is not appreciated properly, so and then the love takes a different turn and the people end up being sentimental. So finally, in the name of love, people have become very good only at crying and weeping. That is what Swamiji described. You see, there can be no love so long as there is lust, even a speck of it. That is how Swamiji opines. I am basing my small message, a simple message, mostly on the words of Swami Vivekananda. You see, some of the gurus or acharyas may proclaim that the love they talk about or the Radha Krishna that they are talking about, or the Gopi Krishna that they are talking about, is not lust. This is one kind of upasana. Like that the present. Swami Vivekananda did not have a very good respect for this kind of upasana. So the upasana in which the devotee looks at himself as the wife or the woman and God as the husband, that kind of upasana, Swamiji did not have very good respect for that kind of upasana. He ended up saying, meditating on love to God by thinking of oneself as his wife or beloved. So God is my beloved, I am God's beloved. That kind of, so while maintaining the Dvaita, you introduce the word beloved, prema, etc., and then consider that as a very valuable upasana. So Swamiji feels one would very likely be thinking most of the time of one's own wife in that kind of meditation. The result is too obvious to point out. Therefore, we should be very cautious in understanding the love associated with the name Shri Krishna. Therefore, now I will explain a little bit about that. You see, we have a Shri Rama who embodies Dharma and the Tattvamasi Mahavakya. That is what Rama embodies. Ramo Vigrahavan Dharmaha, and Vasishtha Maharshi teaches to Rama, hey Rama, you are that Brahman. That is all about Rama. But when it comes to Shri Krishna, so he is the embodiment of Ananda, Ananda Swarupaha. And Ananda means joy in oneself and love in relation. When you are relating to things or people, Ananda is love. For example, you can love a tree or a dry leaf or a raindrop or a person, a family member or any human being for that matter. So that is what love, that is what Ananda is. Ananda expresses as love in relating to other things. Whereas the same Ananda expresses as that inner joy. Therefore, so Shri Krishna embodies that Ananda, his Ananda Swarupaha. And Shri Krishna, he signifies the Mahavakya Aham Brahmasmi. So Rama for Tattvamasi, Krishna for Aham Brahmasmi. And Shri Krishna stands for that divine love. Now, what is this love? Ananda, which is Atma Swarupa. Atma is Satchidananda, and that Ananda itself is called love or prema or pritihi. That is how it is called. Now, this love has two aspects. One aspect is the love is put in the domain of kshetra. See, in Gita, we have this 13th chapter where a discrimination or a discernment is highlighted between kshetra and kshetrajna. Kshetra is the body mind, kshetrajna is the awareness absolute. Also, they are called respectively Prakruti, that is the kshetra, and Purusha, the awareness absolute, as the kshetrajna, the distinction. So the 13th chapter of Gita stands for the discernment between Prakruti and Purusha. Now, Shri Krishna embodies love. Now, where should we put this love? Suppose we put this love in the domain of kshetra, then it soon degenerates into the attraction between the feminine and the masculine, that we find in nature. Prakriti is the nature. And in nature, there is a biological division of masculine and feminine, and also there is a biological attraction between the masculine and feminine principles. You find it in the plant kingdom, in the animal kingdom you find it, and in the humans there is no difference. Therefore, when you take this love, which is supposedly embodied by Lord Sri Krishna, into the domain of kshetra, it ends up very soon. It goes down and down and down and degenerates or ends up very soon as the lust between man and woman. Now, you cannot present Lord Sri Krishna as exemplifying that kind of love. That is not the love which Sri Krishna stands for or signifies. The acharyas of Hindu Dharma who are teaching the glory of Lord Sri Krishna to the masses should first themselves examine their understanding of the distinction between Prakriti and Purusha, associating the love signified by Lord Sri Krishna with the Prakriti vis-a-vis with the Purusha. They should see this distinction. They cannot take the love embodied by Sri Krishna into the domain of Prakriti. If you do that, it goes into the shape of kama, which is lust. Then we have to start some stories about kama also. Kama this, kama that, like that. Kama was the son of Krishna, etc. Their stories should go on. The Hindu society has become a kind of a victim of the endless stories which are often meaningless and have no significance, have no message to offer, and sometimes even these stories could be very misleading. And then these stories are associated with a number of rituals, and the rituals have their origin in quite often in superstition. There may be worthy exceptions, but quite often they have their origin in superstition, etc. So this way, when the society is driven by the rituals, the karma, and the stories, the mythology, disassociated from philosophy, the vision of Lord Sri Krishna as it is expounded in Bhagavad Gita, then that is a great misfortune. And a wrong message goes into the society. And who is responsible for this misfortune? Naturally, the acharyas, the gurus, the religious leaders over centuries, they are responsible. And so that is what Swami Vivekananda was categorically saying. And therefore, at least we are the people of Vedanta, the students and the acharyas of Vedanta, we should not make that mistake. That's why when Swami Vivekananda advised, don't you go after Radha Krishna, you pay attention to Gita Krishna. So in that advice, all this understanding was included. Now, the love embodied by Lord Sri Krishna, so I repeat, should not be associated with Prakriti because of the pitfalls associated with it as explained. So now what should we do with this love, which is love is God, and Sri Krishna embodies love. And so what is that love? If it cannot be or should not be associated with Prakriti, then where should we put this love? You have to put it in the domain of Purusha. Purusha is the awareness. So love should be associated with Purusha. Love, when you come to Purusha category, the love, the word love, acquires a new dimension altogether. It is the most uplifting, and it takes the devotee or the seeker to the vision of Aham Brahmasmi, the non-dual Brahman. Because in the context of Purusha domain, love means unity in diversity. That is what love is. So, love begins as diversity, begins with diversity. Like Jiva loves Ishvara and Ishvara loves Jiva. There is a division, Dvaitam, Jiva, Ishvara. But the love soon eliminates the division, and the Jiva's Jivatvam and Ishvara's Ishvaratvam are burnt in the fire of knowledge, leading to the fusion of Jiva and Ishvara into one absolute awareness called Brahman. That is the love we are talking about. That is the Jiveshwarayoha Aikyam. That Aikyam, the unity in diversity, to begin with in diversity, but merging in unity, that is the love which Lord Shri Krishna represents. He says, Kshetrajnanchapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. That is the love we are talking. That is the love that Shri Krishna signifies or embodies. So also in the 12th chapter of Gita, Shri Krishna says, Yo mad bhaktas same priyaha. Bhakti is love. Whosoever loves me, I love him. Same priyaha. It sounds like that. But if you carefully examine it, here the love is not in the domain of Prakriti. It is obviously in the domain of Purusha, that is the Chaitanya domain. And in that domain, the so-called Jiva loses his limitations, and he gets rid of his identity with the body-mind. He is free from the upadhi of the body-mind and merges in the Godhead. So that is the true devotee. And once the devotee reaches that state of union or unity with the Godhead, he is no different from Shri Krishna anymore. That's why Krishna said, Jnani tvatmaiva me matam. Jnani and myself, there is no difference between the two. And so when he said, Yo mad bhaktaha, the true devotee is same priyaha. Priyaha, in Bhashyakara's words, in Shri Shankara's words, priyaha means Atma. He is my Atma. He is my own self. There is no difference between Jiva and Ishvara anymore. There is no division between Bhakta and Ishvara or Shri Krishna anymore. That is the love. The love of oneness of Jiva and Ishvara, that is the true love. Now, when you understand the love that way, now is there any difference between that love and Atma Jnana? Is there any difference between the two? There is no difference. That's why the love is withdrawn from the domain of Prakriti so that it won't degenerate, and it is associated with the domain of Purusha. Thereby, the separateness of the Jiva is merged, is eliminated by knowledge. There is separation only by ignorance, and the knowledge eliminates the ignorance, and along with the ignorance, the idea of separation is also gone, and the Jiva merges in Ishvara. In Sri Ramakrishna's words, it is the salt doll, which is like Jiva, merging in the ocean, which is like Ishvara. That is the love, and that is the love which Sri Krishna embodies. Therefore, we have to learn to look at Sri Krishna as a philosopher, Jagadguru, universal teacher, and we have to carefully dislodge the mindset from the man-woman attraction kind of love. The love which is prevalent in the domain of Prakriti, we have to dislodge the mind from that, and various forms of celebration, worship, etc., which are rooted in this Prakriti kind of love, have to be re-examined, and we have to rediscover. The Hindu society has to rediscover Lord Shri Krishna. These are some of the thoughts which I have in mind, which I felt like sharing with you on this auspicious occasion of Lord Shri Krishna's Ashtami, Shri Krishnastami. Thank you for your patience. I appeal that people should consider these ideas with an open mind. Om Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Krishnarpanamastu.